here's what I'm doing about it. There's so many changes happening in my life right now. And last week, my financial coach and I had a come to Jesus meeting. The biggest takeaway? I need to treat my self-assigned tasks like a real job with deadlines. So I bought a giant wall calendar so I could easily visualize the schedule I was going to set. And that included 2 YouTube videos per week, Mondays and Thursdays at noon. And that's step one. But then reality hit, and it hit hard. After the whole TikTok, ByteDance, and CapCut situation, where my editing platform of choice, CapCut, went down for 48 hours, I decided to switch editing platforms and finally upgrade to Final Cut Pro X. It's a wildly powerful tool, but for me, it's not the most intuitive. I spent the entire weekend wrestling with it, thinking I could just jump in and hit the ground running, and that did not happen. The farthest thing from it. Right now, I'm barely at a crawling pace, let alone walking or running with it. And the same story applies to another thing I'm working on, which is writing songs, editing audio, and producing. I've used Pro Tools forever, but as my life and my career evolve, I decided to switch platforms to something better suited for my needs, and right now that's Logic Pro. And I thought I could download the software and begin making polished demos immediately. After all, I've been doing audio and tech for quite a while, and I thought I could rely on my skills and knowledge. But that did not happen. I can barely even use the damn thing right now, and it's not Logic's fault, it is just my learning curve. My goal is to have one fully flushed out song demo per week, but it's been rough to do that, to say the least. And on top of all that, I'm learning AI and coding, trying to keep up with this revolutionary technology and integrate it into my workflow. But there is so much to learn, and my patience wants everything now. And to go along with all that, I'm working on my health, things like my sleep, diet, exercise. And those are all slow moving projects as well. And last but certainly not least, there's money. Yikes. It's the 3rd of the month and I've still yet to pay my March rent. And I've come to accept that there is no such thing as a quick, easy buck. And I've also made a conscious decision to stop chasing and pursuing work that doesn't fulfill me. Long term, I want multiple income streams, financial security, and more creative freedom. But right now, those are moving pretty slowly as well. So let's talk about the reality of progress. I'm an ideas guy. I have big ideas and grand visions of how productive I should be. But the moment I push forward, I run into resistance. And my past self would have seen those roadblocks and immediately quit. Right now, I recognize them for what they are, just part of the process. And sometimes moving forward means actually backtracking and finding a different path. You see, progress, healing, whatever you want to call it, is rarely linear. And in the moment, it can feel like nothing's happening. And in the past, when I hit those moments, I would abandon ship. But now, I'm leaning into the uncertainty. Or for lack of better terms, I'm leaning into the suck. And at the moment, I probably have 10 to 20 videos that are about 20% complete. That's the truth. None of them are close to meeting my standards. And I've always had incredibly high standards, which I think is good, but for me, it stops me from iterating. And constant iteration is what leads to long-term growth. And having said that, I know some of my upcoming videos aren't going to be perfect or up to my standards. But I'd rather consistently show up than wait for everything to be flawless. You see, my goal isn't to be a content creator that uses music as his vehicle. I'm really a musician, first and foremost, that is documenting the journey on YouTube. And you know what? The journey isn't easy. The journey isn't linear. The journey isn't clean or flawless. And that's what I want to document right here. And I've always worked in these bursts. I would sprint on a project for 1 to 3 days, go all in, pull out all the stops, exhaust my reserves, and then I would need an entire week or two to start that whole process again. It can be insanely satisfying for me in the short term, but in the long run, it's very unsustainable. And now I'm shifting towards what is a pretty big challenge for me. Small daily steps. And you know how I can tell I've had a productive day? When it feels like I've gotten absolutely jack shit done. I'll spend an hour on Final Cut, then an hour on learning Logic, an hour cleaning up my online presence on Linktree and Calendly. Then I'll spend an hour practicing guitar, an hour writing songs, an hour on content, an hour on learning AI. And that's a wildly full day. But in my very smooth, tiny brain, it doesn't create immediate results, and I freak out. And the past year, I've really had to confront this cycle. Distractions, unhealthy coping mechanisms, short-term wins that don't really serve the bigger picture, such as having an Instagram reel go viral. Instead, I'm choosing to lean into the slow, uncomfortable suck. I know, that's what she said. But really, I'm leading into discomfort, insecurity, the frustration, the impatience. In the short term, it's even more uncomfortable than escapism. But in the long term, it's the only way forward for me. And really, that is my goal with my YouTube channel. It's documenting the journey, the ups and the downs, not the perfection, not the highlights, not the wins, but all of it. I want to give other people permission to struggle, to be messy, to be uncertain, to be insecure, and know that that's part of the process. And really, that's what I set out to do with this channel. And that's also what I set out to do with my art, with my music, with my existence. It's to just be authentic and real. And that's easier said than done. But even making a video like this today is one small step towards being more authentic. So here's my public commitment. Mondays and Thursdays, I'll see you right here at noon. I'm also reminding myself why I'm doing this. Not just for viral moments, not just for hyper polished content where it looks like my life is so easy and my career is going great, but for me to create music and be authentically me as possible. Both in the songs I write, both in the songs I play and perform, and in the videos I create. Hell, even right now, I have this voice inside of my head saying, are you using YouTube voice? Are you changing who you are? Are you trying to put on an act for the camera? And even as I say this right now, going off script, I'm wondering, am I meandering? Am I losing the potency of my message? But I'm not trying to chase algorithms. I'm not trying to chase perfection. I'm chasing me. I'm trying to be the most me version of me. And that's really hard to do, but ultimately I think it will be gratifying for myself. And I'll leave you with this. And it was straight from my journal last night that I wrote before I went to bed, and I read first thing this morning. And here's the kind of the passage that inspired me. Challenge yourself to get a YouTube video done by noon. And it's not a time challenge, but more or less a challenge to see if you're okay with just posting something as is and not creating a huge storyboard or promotional campaign behind it. Well, with that being said, I guess mission accomplished. And with that in mind, I'll see you Thursday at noon. Remember to be kind to one another and be kind to yourself.